strikers, whilst Newcastle had the result of the season, a comprehensive 3-0 victory over UTS Olympic, knocking them off top spot in the Ericsson Cup. Well, joining me to discuss, Newcastle had probably their best result of the season, a comprehensive 3-0 victory over UTS Olympic, knocking them off top spot in the Ericsson Cup. Well, joining me to discuss this match tonight is former Australian skipper Johnny Warren. Good evening, John.
Robbie, how are you doing?
John, really, the competition does go into overdrive. Midweek games tonight and next week and the weekend. Tough for the players.
I think it's tough for the players, but it's a make or break for the clubs, isn't it? 4 games in a period of 2 weeks for part-time players. It calls into play a factor which is key to teams winning the championship, and that is depth. And I think here tonight we're seeing with Marconi making some changes, or 3 changes from their team that did so well in Brisbane, indicates that they will be one of the teams to beat this year.
Well, John, the form for Marconi, they are at top of the competition. They haven't won for 2 weeks, but they still take over #1 spot.
Yeah, thankfully to their opponent tonight, Newcastle. I think it's a beautiful time of the year for Newcastle because they weren't expected to do a lot this year. They can just relax, they can just play and continue to be a headache for all the other clubs. They've knocked off South Melbourne, knocked off Sydney Olympic, and who knows, could do the same tonight. It's a really nice time of the year for them. We've got about 9 games to go. Let's just relax, play, and we'll see what's going to happen next year. Yeah,
interesting to see how Newcastle will perform tonight. They will be very much giant killers. Well, one person that was at the Newcastle game on the weekend was Sports Australia's Steve Darby. Steve, Newcastle were very good value for that 3-0 win.
Well, certainly, Robbie. I was watching the game for Sports Australia, and on paper it should have been a walkover to Olympic. But basically, Newcastle had a tremendous away win at their home ground. They stacked 10 in the defence, did it well, put 1 boy up front and broke superbly. They got 3 set pieces and scored three times. And to be fair, Olympic only had 2 chances, and they didn't deserve the victory. Well deserved, and the boy who was outstanding for them was young Thomas in midfield. But really, you've got to say as well, Marconi had a great game, and Bertie Mariani, who's with me now, he saw Marconi up in Brisbane.
Yeah, they defended. There was a great game. I mean, Brisbane and Marconi were hot, Steve. At the same time, Marconi defended very, very well in that first half. Weathered the storm, and in the second half they just pounded Brisbane. And it should be a really, really interesting game here. Both, I think, coming off good results they would classify last weekend.
I think tonight then, Rob, that the key will be whoever scores first. Newcastle will have to stack their defence. It's pointless if they actually try and play against them. And if they stack the defence, who do you think then, Robbie, will be the key player for Marconi tonight?
Well, Steve W., you're right. I do have some players. I'll ask John Warren, who could it be the potential game breakers then for Marconi tonight, John?
Well, I'm very interested in Zorich coming in. I think he's a creative player. He's a game breaker. And I think we saw when he came on late against Brisbane that suddenly the game started to change. It changed because Bingley went up front. The player I expect a big game from tonight is Waratifi. Manfred wasn't happy with him, even though he was slightly injured and came off. He's had a little bit of shake-up. He's under pressure that Schaefer can play Bingley in front alongside Harper, who was quite outstanding. So expect Francis tonight to really have to pull his socks up.
Okay, we'll look at those two, John. And also, Brendan Renault starts the match tonight. His width and strength and speed could be an asset to Marconi.
Well, with Smith missing, they're going to need that, aren't they? And when Renault comes on, he does give it. He's a natural left-sided player, quite creative, good crosser of the ball. And for those reasons, he'll be a very valuable player tonight. When he's come on, he's always impressed. Be good to see him in a starting role tonight.
Yeah, over the full 90 minutes. Thanks, John Warren. And these 2 clubs have met already twice this season, earlier in the season in round 2 and later in the year. Let's have a look at how they went on the record, because they've played those 2 matches tonight. And really they have got a good position to be in. We'll go now to that particular result. Marconi was successful 2-0 early in October, and then again they were successful 2-0 at Breakers' home ground. So it's really going to be interesting to see what happens tonight. Let's have a look where they sit on the table at this stage. After 23 rounds, Marconi sit at the top of the table and Newcastle are second from bottom. We'll have a look at those particular table. Marconi on 44 points, ahead of UTS Olympic on goal difference. The bottom half of the table, Newcastle, with those 2 wins, have jumped to 17 points, and certainly they're going to be more than nuisance value here tonight as far as they go. Well, one thing that we will pause for is the national anthem.
Well, there you have it, the national anthems of Australia, and the two teams now out on the park here at Bossley Park in the southwestern suburbs of Sydney. A splendid evening, a clear sky, a slight breeze blowing from the south, and the game, of course, between Marconi-Fairfield and Newcastle Breakers. We'll take a look at that Marconi lineup first, and Coach Manfred Schaefer surprisingly decides to make 3 changes to the team, which had marginally the better of the draw in Brisbane last weekend. Out go Christodoulou, Smith and Maloney, and in comes Stanton, Zorich and Brendan Renault. Zorich should provide an extra dimension in midfield where his close skills and passing ability will be appreciated by Al-Ratifi and Harper, the latter arguably the best player never to have played for Australia. Well, the man we just spoke about, Vlado Zorich, the anchor man in midfield, getting his chance tonight after some time in recent weeks on the bench. And he really is an important player to this Marconi side. He does have the ability to open up the play, and that ability is certainly appreciated by their forward line. Newcastle, for their case, make just 1 change to the team, which had a magnificent victory over UTS Olympic at the weekend. The loss of promising young striker Clayton Zane, who was suspended for the 3rd time this season. His absence leaves Jason Bennett, scorer of 3 goals in his last 3 appearances, as the lone striker in a formation which sees 4 across the middle, among them the informed Scott Thomas. Again, skipper David Lowe is absent with an ankle injury, while at the back Stephen Hickman returns after a 3-match absence to add steel to the centre of defence. Well, there's a shot of the Newcastle veteran Ralphie Meyer, who tonight plays his 250th game in the A-League. Ralphie Meyer has been playing at this level since 1982, so a great testament to his longevity and a testament as well to his ability that he's still participating well at the highest level. A milestone for Ralph Meyer, but that milestone, of course, will be all the more meaningful if Newcastle can snatch a result here tonight away from home. They haven't beaten Marconi this season. Let's see what they can do here as we await the start of the game. The referee tonight from Sydney, Condiomus. And it's Newcastle in the dark blue against Marconi in the light blue. There we have it, the ball is off. Newcastle playing from left to right on your screens. And Marconi now trying to work an attack up that right-hand side of the pitch. And it is a big ask, of course, of these players to play so many games in such a short space of time. Many of these teams required to play 4 times in the space of 10 days. So a test of fitness as much as anything else. Here come the breakers, though. Sitting on the right side of midfield is Troy Halpin. Scott Thomas in the centre of the pitch, dispossessed by Robbie Stanton. Here's Halpin again, a lovely cross into the middle, and on the end of it was Glenn Sprott, in fact, coming in from the left side of the field. So an encouraging early moment for the breakers. A nice flat cross provided by Halpin, and Glenn Sprott escaping the marking of that Marconi defence just momentarily. Longo now, one of Marconi's star performers this season. He certainly had a great game in Brisbane on Saturday night, Dominic Longo. But this time it's a nice through ball by Renault, which has opened up the play for Vlado Zorich. In the middle is Al-Ratifi. The cross, though, sent away by Roberts. Marconi, though, still in possession now with Renault. Looks up, the cross comes in again. Al-Ratifi might get on the end of it. He does. But Francis Al-Ratifi didn't really have time to make good contact with the ball. As we look at the replay, a nice cross in by Renault, and perhaps he thought that Shane Price was going to get a touch on that Johnny Warren because he really didn't get time to set himself for the shot.
Fabulous cross from Renault. That is the type of thing, particularly in the absence of Smith, that Marconi are going to look for tonight. Beautiful curved cross, and I think Francis just put off a little bit, but more of that from Renault is the order of the day for Marconi.
So Newcastle playing with just 1 striker. Coach on the right of your picture there, John Cosmina, is very happy with the way his team have turned things around over the last 3 matches. 2 very, very encouraging wins against South Melbourne and UTS Olympic. But discretion, the job tonight for the Newcastle Breakers, as Marconi and their attacking machine led by Harper threaten the goal of Craig Carter. Here's Stanton now in midfield, trying to pick out Al-Ratifi, but the striker was offside, in fact. decision against Francis Aratifi. So the free kick will go to the Breakers. And to be taken by their captain for this evening, Ralph Meyer. And as I mentioned a moment ago, Johnny Warren, his 250th appearance tonight, Ralphie Meyer, and it really is a testament to his ability. He's been what you would describe as a model club player for a number of years.
It has, and it seems only like yesterday coming through with the young Socceroos and playing in the earlier days with Newcastle. But Robbie Wheatley talking to me before the game, Michael, about the game breakers for Marconi. We mentioned Zorich, but of course Harper has been in such outstanding form, and Bingley, the two you'd probably have to add to that list. I felt Harper was quite outstanding, particularly in the second half against Brisbane, where he was at the heart of that very impressive revival by Marconi.
Foul there by Andrew Roberts on Aratifi. And Aratifi, in fact, is in some trouble here. Perhaps he fell awkwardly on his hand there because he's holding his wrist. Francis Aratifi. The ball has been played, though. Here comes Zorich. Forward of him is Harper. He goes left to Renault instead. Now Stanton. Good movement here by the Marconi players. Zorich, though, dispossessed by Scott Thomas. And Aratifi is still holding that right arm of his, or it's a wrist problem. I'm not sure exactly what. May need treatment, though. He's in some pain. Here come Marconi. Harper now. And shirt pulling there against Andrew Harper on Stephen Hickman. No doubt about that whatsoever. That'll be a good battle tonight, the Hickman-Harper battle. The referee now going across, in fact, to speak to Francis Aratifi, see what the problem is.
Well, he did break that wrist, I think, a couple of years ago, no, Mike?
That's correct as well. So
seem to remember
he played in South Melbourne with a cast for a number of weeks, didn't he? So I hope there's no recurrence to that problem for Francis, who was, in fact, under an injury cloud going into this match. Both he and Brad Maloney passing late fitness tests. Maloney, though, on the bench tonight. Aratifi in the starting 11. And here he is again, battling away. He's fallen awkwardly as well. He gets up, though, now with Bingley. Through the middle is Harper. There's no support. And a misunderstanding there, in fact, between Harper and Aratifi allows Thomas to come away with the ball for Newcastle. John Cosmina, the Newcastle coach, who has done a very good job in difficult circumstances this season. He's gone with the local players, and that's something that, as a club, Newcastle have been talking about for many, many years.
But never done.
But never done, and the first time this season that they have decided to give the locals a go, and I feel really under the circumstances the team has done reasonably well, Johnny.
Well, it's a good investment, isn't it? We've always admired the products that have come out of Newcastle, the likes of Barts and Curran and Craig Johnston, of course. In the past, they've never had the patience to give them a go. They've done it this year and hopefully reap the benefits next year and the season after.
Well, here is a free kick to the Breakers. Swung in there by Roberts, away by DeMarini, and the volley by Halpin was well over the mark. But Troy Halpin, in fact, scored one of the best goals you're likely to see a couple of weeks ago. A magnificent goal against South Melbourne. Good commitment, good skill, and in the end, a great shot. So Troy Halpin, one of those young Newcastle players we talk about, now getting his chance in the top company. Foul on Harper, so a free kick to Marconi. Now Dominic Longo moves forward into the area. Look at the Marconi bench there, and some big names on that bench. Maloney, Christodoulou and Mike Smith. Free kick now by DeMarini towards the edge of the 6-yard box. In there was Longo, away by Price. Still bouncing around there, appeals for handball, and the snapshot from Aratifi was a good effort under the circumstances. The ball came off a Newcastle player, so it's a corner to Marconi as we look at the incident again. The header away by Price initially, and the players appealing for a handball on Andy Roberts there. A tough call, that one. Corner though now with Demarani again, helped on by Bingley. In there was Harper. El Retifi with the goal at his mercy, volleys over the bar. So Francis El Retifi, he's on the end of things at the moment, but he's just not able to find the target. Again, going very close to opening the scoring there, Francis El Retifi. A set piece, the header on by Harper, and the volley over the mark.
Yeah, one he should have put away. Francis knows that, but the defending there by Newcastle, 4 defenders challenged Harper, leaving a Waratifi free. And the little I've seen of Newcastle this year, Mike, they've given away such soft goals. I'm sure it's due to inexperience and perhaps lack of organisation at the back, but that was a perfect illustration of what they do. 4 went against Harper, leaving a Waratifi free.
Well, Newcastle called upon to defend again. This time Renault chips his free kick short to Zorich. The square ball. Harper again with time in the area. Turns onto his left foot and in the end slices the shot. But once again, Newcastle really not tight enough on Andrew Harper. As he received the ball there, he was in acres of space. Shane Price, who was assigned to mark Andrew Harper, was well away from the action. So I'm sure John Cosmina will be sending the message out that they've got to get tighter on their men, these Newcastle defenders. Retifi, 10 goals this season for Marconi since his move from South Melbourne. Sprod now for Newcastle. Up the line was Roberts. In there well was Souris. Throw in though to the breakers. Good turn by Thomas away from Stanton. Castley fouled right in front of the referee. Demarani, the sweeper for Marconi, the long ball looking for Aratifi, the header away by Roberts, helped on by Sprod. And Jason Bennett battling well for Newcastle, and he's fed the run there of Glenn Sprod. The cover came across from Stanton. Castley now for Marconi, and here's a break by Bingley down the right-hand side, 2 in the middle, Zorich and Aratifi, but the cross came off Ralphie Meyer. So a momentary reprieve for Newcastle. The pattern is already emerging. It's Marconi in control of this game so far. Perhaps also, John Warren, a little bit of a hangover for Newcastle after such a good result only 48 hours ago.
Well, it is the result of the season, wasn't it? Knocking Olympic off, not just beating them, but knocking them off the top of the table. But I think too, Mike, with a youngish team, which Newcastle is, your form is a little bit all over the place as well. Up one week, down the next. But it is as you expect the game to go. The problem for Marconi, they've got to put their chance away early to kill Newcastle early, because the longer the game goes on, they start to get a sniff that they can cause another upset. Life becomes even more difficult for Marconi.
Well, here's Renault bursting down the left, and his square ball almost found Castley, given away by Roberts. Bingley now with time. Aratifi watched by Price. Goes one way and then the other. Good run here from Aratifi, still going, and once again Ralphie Meyer was in there when it counted for Newcastle. So a very lively opening for Francis Aratifi. I'm sure Manfred Schaefer had words to Francis after that game in Brisbane. I'm sure he's told him to pick up his game tonight, and the signs are that the advice is working. Another corner for Marconi. Once again, Demarani, the provider, towards the back post. Longo in there well, the header down and helped on by Aratifi. In fact, is that an own goal? It may have come off Glenn Sprott, in fact, with Aratifi in there as well. So Marconi opened the scoring after 13 minutes. And that really is no surprise in terms of the pattern of the game. The Marconi fans celebrating. As we look at the replay again, the corner by DeMarini, a strong header at the back post here by Longo. And in fact, it was an own goal there from the Newcastle player. I'm not sure of his identity as yet.
Look at the experience here. I'm sorry, Mike. The push. Longo sets himself before Hickman. As the cross comes in, Longo's got his body in position first. And that's a good example of the experience where he was able to win the ball quite easily in the air, purely from positioning early enough.
Well, I think, in fact, it may have been Troy Halpin who was the unlucky Newcastle player. So a setback for the Breakers early on here. Just what they didn't want. The goal coming from a set piece. Here's Ralphie Meyer pushing forward for the Breakers. The layoff by Bennett. Price now square to Hickman. Newcastle not yet out of their own half. And Sprott in there, dispossessed by Marconi. Stanton short to Zorich, gets the return. Aratifi wants the ball over the top, and he's complaining that the ball wasn't played when he wanted it to be played. He just didn't check his run in time. Aratifi was offside, but the referee allows play to continue. Perhaps, in fact, it was Adam Sanderson who put the ball into his own net. We still haven't got a firm identity on that own goal from Newcastle, but it's Marconi leading 1-0. Throw by Sanderson. Bennett in there, away by DeMarini. Hickman short towards Peter Ritchie. Come Marconi again, and that's a trip by Price on Aratifi. And the referee want to have a word to Shane Price. As we look at the replay once again, an obvious trip there by the Newcastle defender. So he gets a warning from the referee. So it's Marconi leading 1-0 against Newcastle. And Marconi really have dominated this game from the outset. As we take another look at the goal scored in the 13th minute of play. The header on there by Longo. And it may have been Adam Sanderson, or it may have been Troy Halpin. It's still not clear, but I'm sure we'll get direction from the referee. Here's Marconi again, Bingley with the shot. And with time, put the ball across the face of goal. Matthew Bingley puts it into the side netting instead. So it's a goal kick to Newcastle. And while we wait for Craig Carter to take the kick, we'll cross down to the sideline and Steve Darby.
Thank you, Mike, and we can certainly confirm it was Adam Sanderson, the number 2 for Newcastle, who unfortunately put the ball into his own net.
Well, thank you for clearing that up, Steve. As Andy Harper goes on a run into that box, the cover from Meyer is good enough. And it's a corner again to Marconi, so the home team really in control here, Johnny Warren.
Yes, and they would be looking to finish Newcastle off. They've got the goal in front, and they'd be very conscious of goal difference at the top of the table. They're plus 17, Olympic plus 14. So if they can get a couple in front, they could get a pretty good score, which would help that goal difference as opposed to Olympic.
Corner by Cassidy. In there, Aratifi. Renault on the edge of the box, brings the ball down. The shot deflected by Price, and helping out Newcastle was Halpin. And Sanderson goes crunching into Longo, but the ball's fallen nicely for Cassidy now. For Marconi, tries to go through 2, and he draws the foul, Luke Cassidy. And it's a caution to Troy Halpin into the bargain, so nothing going right for the Breakers. And complaints from Halpin as Castley goes through the two Newcastle players. Foul committed right on the edge of the area. So Troy Halpin, the first name into referee Condiomus's notebook. Free kick taken quickly by Demarani. The referee wants it taken again. So a good variation there by Marconi, but I'm sure Newcastle will close off that particular option. Now the kick is retaken. Smiles on that Marconi bench. And an encouraging start for them. Demarani goes square instead. Stanton with space, away there by Price. And the long ball out of defence by Meyer. Demarani now, square to Souris. Away by Price. Demarani once again. The ball this time is a good one. Castley lays it off for Renault. Castley again, who swapped from right to left. He has support from Renault outside. He goes inside instead. Shapes for the shot. Luke Castley. And it wasn't a bad effort under the circumstances. Craig Carter down low to his right, pushing the ball around the post for a corner. Luke Castley coming in from that left wing. Perhaps the goalkeeper a little bit slow to get down there. Sign, though, of Marconi's confidence in this match, as Craig Carter makes a save down to his right. Castley now with the corner kick. And the punch from Carter. Castley again, in there is Zorich, and Andy Harper unable to steer his shot on target, so Newcastle really at 6s and 7s in defence. Marconi just having shots at will. As John Cosmina wonders what he can do to plug up these holes. Look at the space here for Andrew Harper and Johnny Warren. They're going to get punished again if they're not careful.
Well, they're defending on the glimpses I've had on this year. Their defending has been quite disorganised, if I could put it that way, and seeing them now live for the first time, that's certainly the case. You feel that if Marconi are to get another one, as they well could do, that they're capable of getting quite a few goals here tonight.
Free kick now for the Breakers. Stephen Hickman with the long ball up towards Halpin and Sanderson. Again with Halpin. Ritchie in there as well. Still with Peter Ritchie. Nice work there by Brendan Renault, but Vlado Zorich telegraphed that pass. The ball bounces favourably for Harper. Still going, Andy Harper. Hickman, though, doing well to win the ball. Newcastle really have to come up with some better ideas in attack as well on the few occasions that they have been in this Marconi half. They really haven't shown too many ideas. Ritchie now with a good ball through the middle, and there's the shot by Sprott, a good save by Catlin. So just as I was speaking about their lack of penetration, Newcastle create their first real opportunity of the game. 22 minutes into the match, a nice ball into the edge of that 6-yard box by Ritchie, and a good strike by Sprott, forcing Catlin into a reflex save. There's Harper now at the other end of the pitch, watched by Price. Goes to the line, Andrew Harper, and the cross towards the near post into the arms of Craig Carter. Stephen Hickman with the ball over the halfway line, chips it up towards Scott Thomas. Difficult bounce, he controls it well. Watched by Demarani. Ball into the edge of the box, looking for Sprott once again. Away by Souris, no one up there for Marconi. So a better period now for Newcastle. Troy Halpin Good skills here to get away from Aratifi. Still going, Troy Halpin. A nice run here. Bennett in there looking for the 1-2. Halpin in on goals. And what a shot that is. A classy finish by Troy Halpin. So Newcastle out of the blue equalise and put a smile on the face of John Kosmina. The Marconi defence opened up completely through the middle. It was started by Troy Halpin and finished by Troy Halpin. What a run. We talked about his skill a little bit earlier, and there was a prime example of it. Against the run of play, Newcastle equalise. The goal coming in the 24th minute. It was Halpin's run which created the opportunity. A good layoff by Bennett. And look at the skill on that finish, Johnny Warren. A lovely finish, perfect timing, and I'm sure it fooled the keeper, because most keepers in that situation would expect a hard shot. And Halpin there just chipping it past Bob Catlin.
It's a real Brazilian goal, if I can put it that way. A run from midfield, the wall pass, and then the little flick past the keeper. I mentioned earlier the goal he scored 2 weeks ago, which was...
Well, we just look at the action there, and in there, equalising again, is Brendan Renault. So Renault has the ball in the net. There is some confusion. In fact, is that a foul? The Newcastle players complaining. No, says the referee, the goal will stand. So Newcastle's delight was short-lived. It was a cross from Matthew Bingley, and just over a minute after they equalised, Newcastle find themselves down once again. And it's the cross from Bingley which creates the problems. Aratifi jumping fairly against the keeper. The ball dropping nicely for Brendan Renault. And his header puts Marconi back in front, 2-1.
We were talking earlier, Mike, about inexperience, immaturity. I mean, that is a real sign of it, that you're at your most vulnerable once you've just scored a goal. Everyone tends to relax a little bit, and that is inexperience, immaturity, although taking nothing away from the quality of the cross from Bingley and the header from Renault. It's a question of, after you score, everything becomes much tighter. Let's just to put a real our break on it for a few minutes, just till we regain our composure. But I did feel it was a ball that the keeper should have had. Good challenge from Aratifi, but in that 6-yard box, that has to be the keeper's ball.
Well, there is a problem as well for Craig Carter, who was beaten to the ball by Francis Aratifi. We'll now cross down quickly to the sideline, and Bertie Mariani.
Thanks, Mike, and what an incredible set of circumstances. Two goals in the space of a minute, and I've got with me John Kosmina. John, you've got to be pretty disappointed from the early setback with the own goal.
Oh yeah, but they pinned us down and we didn't use any brains to keep them out. We talked about shape before the game, and we just haven't kept it in the first 10 minutes of play. I was happy at 1-1, then that second one went in, and it was a bit of a cruel blow, but you've got to roll with the punches, mate. These guys are still learning, so you know, they'll bounce back. We bounce back from the first goal, see what we can do again.
Overall, happy with your general performance in the first half?
Not so far, because we've been pulled out of shape too often, and it's guys that aren't thinking. You know, they're making. I mean, Marconi are a good side. They're mobile. They've got a lot of mobility, and we're getting caught watching the ball and following men instead of just passing on. There's plenty of opportunities to be able to pass on.
Okay, thanks, John.
Well, there you have it, out of the horse's mouth. John Kosmina, philosophical about the situation tonight, and he was certainly very happy when Troy Halpin scored that goal. We really were just in the middle of talking about what a good goal it was when Marconi equalised. Here's Bennett with a nice layoff, and away by Souris. Hickman now with space. Marconi retreating. Look at this space allowed for Hickman, and in the end it was neither a cross or a shot. Zorich shields the ball from Hickman, and he draws the foul. Stephen Hickman would know all about Vlado Zorich from their days together in the State League here in New South Wales. Of course, Hickman won a championship medal with the Warringah Dolphins. Vlado Zorich, many years in the State League with Canterbury Marrickville. And a late bloomer, really, because he has been talked about, Johnny Warren, as a potential National League player for a good 4 or 5 years now.
And now has the chance. It's taken him time to establish himself in the starting lineup of Marconi. But I think he's that type of player, Mike. He's the creative types, I think, tend to take a while to settle, take a while to balance their creativity with their maturity. And you'll find that midfield players like that, once they do become established, do have a very long career.
Well, there was a wild tackle from Brendan Reno, and he has to be booked for that, as he is. That was an incredibly rash challenge there from Brendan Reno. I don't know what he was thinking about. He just went steaming into the Newcastle players there, Brendan Reno. So he's received a yellow card from referee Condiomis. As we get another look at the incident, Ritchie in there for Newcastle, and Reno just with the scissors, if you like, over the ball. You can't do that, so a caution to Brendan Reno. A shake of the head there from Manfred Schaefer. Free kick to Newcastle, played short by Meyer. Flick on by Halpin. Sprod was in there for Newcastle, across from Hickman. Away by Longo, now with Harper. And the ball coming off the head there of Sanderson. Interesting to note, Johnny Warren, that although Jason Bennett's playing as a lone striker for Newcastle, it seems to be Glenn Sprod, the player who's pushing out of that midfield role to support him.
Well, it's an ideal role to play in, because you don't get picked up as much, do you? You have that ability, particularly to come from behind. You catch defences out. But I know it's easier said than done, but Newcastle looked so much better when they were really having a go at Marconi, didn't they? They had that period of 5 minutes where they really, A, took the pressure off themselves, and B, started to give Marconi a few headaches at the back.
Well, here's Longo now for Marconi, pushing forward, chipping the ball up the line, asking Aratifi to run. And once again, Aratifi not happy with the service. Dominic Longo did an excellent job in Brisbane on Saturday night, marking both Rod Brown and Frank Farina. Really is in fine form, certainly at club level. Dominic Longo, of course, back here at Bossley Park on loan only from his Belgian club Cercle Bruges. Likely to return to Belgium at the end of the season. Throw for Roberts. Now with Marconi. Pushing through in the middle is Bingley. Wide left is Zorich. Ball goes through again to Bingley, and the ball chipped in behind Hickman. Aratifi will get there first. Hickman in there as well. A second Newcastle player, the goalkeeper, Craig Carter, eventually claims the ball as Marconi again bursts through the middle of that Newcastle defence. A lovely ball chipped in behind Hickman. Good battling between those two. Bingley almost getting a touch on that ball, but Craig Carter favoured by the bounce. Newcastle, though, breaking at the other end, and here's Bennett with time as Longo slips, and Bennett forces a good save out of Bobby Catlin. So Newcastle coming back after almost conceding a goal at one end. The counter was a quick one. Longo slipping at the crucial moment, and the shot was on target. Good save by Bobby Catlin down low to his right.
4 attacks and 4 quality attacks from Newcastle. Not many, but high in quality, hitting the goal or a strike at goal or a goal on the 4 occasions that they have come forward.
Okay, guys, I'm here watching.
And it's a corner now for the Breakers, taken by Sprod. At the back post is Hickman, and Hickman fouling Longo, says the referee. Yes, although Newcastle are down near the bottom of the table, they have scored quite a few goals in the last 3 or 4 matches. Of course, there was that memorable 5-all draw against Canberra when they were leading 4-0 at one stage. That game just a month ago. 3 against Olympic at the weekend. 3 against South Melbourne. And 4 against South Melbourne. So scoring at the moment for Newcastle is not their problem. So Marconi leading by 2-1, 32 minutes into the game. And Myers' header's not a good one. It might allow Aratifi in there, and Aratifi raising his foot as the ball dropped, catching Stephen Hickman. The header from Meyer favouring Aratifi, and high feet against Aratifi, certainly the case. Sprod. He has Hickman to his right. Ball in low towards Halpin. There's Peter Ritchie, the youngster. And the ball towards Sprod, away by Zorich. Sprod might get another chance towards the byline, and he's won a corner for Newcastle, so good battling there from Glenn Sprod. Glenn Sprod hails from the central coast of New South Wales. He's played for Parramatta Eagles in the National League and also a spell in England as a professional with Exeter City. So one of the more experienced members of this Newcastle side. It's a breaker's corner, taken by Halpin. Low towards the near post. A good knock on there by Price, was it? And nobody attacking the ball at the back post for Newcastle. So time for Longo now. A good run through the middle by Casserly. He's been found by Longo with a great ball. And Luke Casserly just unable to control that pass from Longo. He was one-on-one with Ralphie Meyer there. John-Paul Dumarini, the Marconi captain. Looking for Harper, the interception made by Sanderson. And Sanderson just gives the ball away to Zorich. Harper trying to turn it on for Renault. The tackle was a firm one from Stephen Hickman. Stanton. Souris. Casserly. Dumarini. So Marconi forced back into their own half here, and Dominic Longo almost put the ball out of play. Good recovery from Brendan Renault. And the ball's still in play. Cross there is Meyer. Eventually the ball rolls over the sideline. Marconi perhaps just taking their foot off the pedal a little bit in the last few minutes, Johnny Warren.
Yeah, I think it's something that'll be brought back to earth with them at half-time because of that goal difference, or apart from, of course, first they've got to get the 3 points. But at the top of the table with that goal difference, it's getting very, very close between the likes of Brisbane, Marconi, Sydney Olympic, and, of course, Adelaide City. So for that reason, this is an opportunity for Marconi to improve their goal difference.
Dumarini out of defence. In there is Scott Thomas, who hasn't really been involved tonight for Newcastle. Scott Thomas, viewed by many as their man of the match in that magnificent 3-0 win against Sydney Olympic last weekend. A result which knocked Olympic off the top of the ladder. And that's a position now occupied, of course, by Marconi. Adam Sanderson now. The ball curved in towards that back post. No problems in the end for Bobby Catlin. And his throw releasing Luke Casserly. Offside is Aratifi, has to check his run, come back onside. This time the ball goes through the middle, looking for Harper. That was the idea. But overhit by Casserly. Shane Price into the feet of Halpin, the layoff finding Hickman. Good play here by Newcastle. Thomas back to Hickman. And the ball chipped up, looking for Bennett. Bennett trying to get in there behind Dominic Longo. And Bennett perhaps thinking it was a foul. A good awareness by Catlin to make the save, and the early kick towards Aratifi is also a good one. Here's Casserly now. Bingley. Casserly still going for Marconi. The shot deflected away by Thomas. So Luke Casserly trying his luck there from the edge of the box. Newcastle coach John Kosmina and his assistant Joe Senkalski. Of course, Joe Sienkiewicz, a very skillful player in his day, Johnny Warren.
Yeah, and in the great days of Newcastle, the early days of the National Soccer League. I still think it's an NSL record, is it not, Mike, up at Newcastle?
Yeah, 18,500 for the visit of Sydney Olympic back in 1978. It is a home and away record. As Marconi now break forward, Castley again involved for Marconi. The ball through the middle, and Matthew Bingley just timed his run a little bit too early there. He was onside. He had a glance across at the linesman. There was no flag. So that was an opportunity gone begging for Marconi. Castley, who's becoming more and more involved with the ball through towards Bingley, but Bingley just overrunning the pass.
He's maturing as a player, Castley. I think he's like a lot of his contemporaries in that young Socceroos squad.
Well, here's Jason Bennett, 1 against 3. Away by Longo.
Yeah, a member of that 93 squad, or in the warm-up series, and that he was a member of it. And I think we expect too much of them, Mike. They play for Australia, and then we think, well, why can't they? They can play well for Australia. Why can't they start for Marconi or West Adelaide? And we see the likes of Jimmy Tsakenis and Peter Tsakenis and Castley, that era, starting now to really assert their authority as mature players in the Ericsson Cup.
Here's Scott Thomas now showing good skills there to turn away from Stanton. Hickman towards Halpin. Still going, Troy Halpin. Finally, he gets the decision from the referee. Brendan Reno, the culprit. And Troy Halpin really does have nice close skills. So it's a free kick to the Breakers. Halpin will take it, swinging it in towards the edge of the box. And not a bad header there by Jason Bennett. He climbed well. He got good contact with the ball. And unfortunately for Newcastle and Jason Bennett, that header flashing wide of the upright. But a good attempt there by Bennett, who is very much in form. 3 goals in his last 3 games for the Breakers. One of 3 former Warringah Dolphins players brought to the club by John Cosmina, who of course coached the Dolphins to the New South Wales title last season. Hickman and Craig Sharpley, the others. There's Roberts with the header. Dimarini. And the tackle was made by Bennett. And in fact, he's won the throw. Very experienced Marconi captain John Paul Dimarini, who in fact has been playing at this level since 1983, so in his 13th season in the NSL, John Paul Dimarini. Lovely dummy there by Stanton, releasing Zorich. And he looks for the run of Harper. Nice vision by Zorich. And Harper has beaten Hickman. He's into the edge of the box. The ball towards Aratifi. And a good cover in the end by Shane Price, with Aratifi about to get on the end of that cross. The Newcastle defender doing very well. Harper shrugging off Hickman there, looking up, seeing where Aratifi was. And from that situation, Shane Price did very well to put it over the bar and not into his own net.
Almost a second OG. Great ball from Zorich. Starting to buzz in midfield, beautiful distribution. Harper is always so strong when he does get in possession, particularly in that attacking third, where his style either breaks through or commits the defender to a foul.
Castley with the corner, and it's a good one. In there was Longo with the downward header off the line there by Glenn Sprott, in fact. So a good header there by Longo, still in the danger zone. This time it was Andy Harper on the end of the cross. So Marconi laying siege to this Newcastle goal. And that was a good firm header by Longo.
But no challenge. I mean, this is inexperience again in defending. At least get a challenge in. Longo is the guy that Marconi aimed for up front in set plays. He's got to be marked, and if you can't beat him to the ball, at least get a challenge, a proper challenge in. enough to put him off and not allow him to get a free header like he just got then.
The other interesting thing about that incident, Johnny Warren, and it amazes me still, even at international level, when you see a team defending a corner without a player at either post. I mean, that is one of the oldest rules in the book when you defend, and it showed up the benefit of it right there. Here's Newcastle on the counter. Sanderson now. Short towards Peter Ritchie. Square is helping. Looking for Bennett. And in there was DeMaroni. Bobby Stanton down in midfield. Not sure what the problem is. Gets to his feet. So just a couple of minutes left in this first half, and it's Marconi holding on to their 2-goal-to-1 lead against the Newcastle side, which is putting up a good fight, it must be said, after looking outclassed for much of that first 20 minutes or so. Newcastle have shown glimpses of good fighting qualities. The cross in there by Thomas, away by Stanton. Now with Roberts, the shot by Roberts. In the end, well wide of the post. But once again, moments of concern in that Marconi defence. As we look at the Marconi bench, and some big names on that bench, Johnny Warren.
It's a nice bench to have, isn't it?
Perhaps one of those players will be introduced for the second half. I'm not sure whether Manfred Schaefer will be entirely happy with what's going on in the middle of his midfield there.
Maloney was carrying an injury. Probably would prefer to get away without using him with a heavy schedule coming up. But the beauty of the bench, of course, it not just gives you the depth, but it keeps pressure on the starting 11. And Renault, who I like Renault as a player, and I think he's played quite well tonight. His crossing has been quite good, and of course scored the goal. But some of his tackles have been unnecessary and over-anxious, and I think that stems from the fact that he's got his chance in the team and he wants to make sure that he's going to stay there. And it's led him to do a few things, nothing with malice, but just that over-anxiety and making a challenge from behind.
Well, good possession play here by the Breakers. They've kept Marconi away from the ball, and they're now looking for something to happen through the middle. It's gone back to Hickman instead. Now all the way back there to the sweeper, Ralphie Meyer. Closed down by Harper. Sanderson unable to beat Aratifi. Still though, Adam Sanderson with the ball, and it's going to be a throw to Newcastle, much to the frustration of Andrew Harper. We're now into injury time at the end of this first half. Now with DeMaroni, Harper, firm tackle by Hickman. Harper though has escaped down the left. Shane Price shows him the line, and Andrew Harper accepts the opportunity. A good cross off the crossbar by Ralphie Meyer. So Newcastle almost putting the ball in the back of their own net for the second time in the game. They really do live dangerously in defence, Newcastle. And once again, we can see the evidence of the crossing ability of Andrew Harper. He is noted as a goal scorer, but often we overlook his crossing skills. On that occasion, his cross was almost put into his own net by Ralphie Meyer. Marconi once again in attack. Stanton now looking for the head of Aratifi, and it goes all the way back to Craig Carter instead. As we again look at that earlier incident, a lovely cross by Andrew Harper, and luckily for Ralphie Meyer, that header came off his own upright with the goalkeeper stranded. Carter with the back pass to Price. It'll have to be long from Shane Price. It is. Zoric wins the ball back for Marconi. Aratifi, though, gives it away to Hickman. Stephen Hickman has played well tonight for Newcastle. With the ball. Here is Troy Halpin. Peter Ritchie. The youngster from Albury, recently recruited from the Australian Institute of Sport. Here's Thomas. Beating the tackle of Demarini. Now with Sanderson. Ritchie again. In there was Demarini though, and Harper now brings the ball away for Marconi. Square is Stanton, he goes short to Zoric instead. Switches on for Castle if they want it, Marconi. And this time he goes towards the head of Aratifi. Offside against the Marconi striker. So 4 minutes now into stoppages at the end of this first half. It is, of course, the trend in the league this season. We're often seeing halves of 50, 52, 53 minutes. Here's Glenn Sprod. Ball came off Souris for a Newcastle throw. Given away there, though, by Marconi, and Peter Ritchie bursting in towards the box. And the tackle was enough from Brendan Renault to slow his progress. Newcastle, though, have won a throw. No, it's not. In fact, it's going to be a goal kick. It's an interesting decision from the Lions. That looked to be a corner to me. John Cosmina not happy with the decision either. Peter Ritchie showing good awareness there for Newcastle. They get nothing out of it though. Marconi now breaking away through Aratifi. Slipping though was Longo. Still going is Bennett. Really putting his body on the line. Longo towards Aratifi. Flag from the linesman, perhaps for a handball against Francis Aratifi. And Aratifi's complaining to the referee. Not for the first time in his career, Francis appeals in vain for the referee to change his decision. As we look at that earlier incident when I thought Newcastle had a corner, and that shows that they should have had a corner, no doubt about that whatsoever. They haven't though, as referee Condiomus ends the first half, which saw Marconi open the scoring, an own goal from Adam Sanderson. Newcastle equalised with a splendid effort from Troy Halpin, but just a minute later Marconi were back in front. A good challenge on the goalkeeper by Aratifi, the ball dropping nicely for Brendan Renault to put Marconi back in front, and that's the way the half ends. But Newcastle, to their credit, have shown a liking for the fight over the last 10 or 15 minutes of the game. Marconi aren't having it all their own way, and I'm sure their coach Manfred Schaefer will want more from him in the second half as we go into the break with a scoreline which reads Marconi-Fairfield 2, Newcastle Breakers 1. We'll now cross back to our Sports Australia studios and Duncan Armstrong.
At 7:30
sit down for a commission to get involved in club football. Is that what he wants?
Yes.
Yes?
Tony.
Tony, you're the best floor manager ever, far better than...
Tony.
Oh.
Yes, Harry.
Audio.
Tony Audio, 1, 2, testing.
He must be the best in audio because he's got the same first name as Tony, the best floor manager.
Yeah, okay.
Tell me to get introduce the boys. What's that?
This is Steve. Steve,
Here we go.
That's nice. It's classy and young.
Yeah, because he was talking.
Steve, you look like you're sleeping in there.
Yes,
Yes, I was going to do that. Yes, you're right.
It's got crinkles all over.
But he'd already taken it, Harry. That was the other thing. Oh, okay, cool.
I told Dorian Sanderson
Harry,
three times.
We were screaming down here.
Just transfer it up, Dorian.
Thanks,
Excuse
Rob.
me, Steve was waiting to confirm that for about 4 minutes.
Welcome back to Marconi Stadium, and in this round 24 Ericsson Cup fixture, it's the home side Marconi-Fairfield leading the visitors Newcastle Breakers 2-1 at half-time. And joining me for a discussion of everything that's taken place in the first 45 minutes, Sports Australia's Bertie Mariani and Steve Darby. Good evening again to you both.
Hey, Rob.
Bertie, for viewers at home, it's Newcastle that have scored both goals, but they're down 2-1. What's the story there?
I mean, obviously, the disappointment of scoring an own goal. They were under immense pressure there for about a 20-25 minute spell from Marconi, and it paid off. They were put under their own pressure, and Sanderson put in an own goal. However, I thought up until then, they absorbed a lot of pressure. I mean, Marconi had most of the play, but they absorbed the pressure, and there weren't really too many open chances.
No, Bertie, Newcastle Breakers' attack has been rare but effective.
Yes, I mean, that's how they play. I mean, Cozzy was saying he would sit back. They're playing one man up, the Lone Ranger, and it's Jason Bennett doing quite a good job. And they break quite quickly.
And Steve, we were just talking about that own goal by Sanderson. Not the best start for Newcastle away from home.
No, I mean, basically, they come here to do a job, get 10 men behind the ball, Bennett up front, and they did it against Olympics superbly, and that's where luck comes into the game. I mean, you can't... It's normal corner. I mean, the argument is, should Carter come out and get these? It's a debatable argument, probably not that far there, but, I mean, what can you do? You can't plan for
They
that
haven't
one.
been convincing on corners, have they, Steve? Really clearing the ball or just marking up?
Not really, no. I mean, you've got to say, if Carter's going to stay, you know you're going to stay, then the lads have got to start going for the ball themselves. I mean, when we'll probably see the second goal later as well, this is where the inconsistency referees come in. A lot of people would say that would have been a foul by Awaratifi on Carter. A few weeks ago, Longo scored a goal, and Awaratifi was pulled up for a foul on Bahutzes and didn't get. I mean, somewhere on the line, the refs have got to be a little bit more consistent, I think, about that. I think half that team stopped for that free kick there on him.
Yeah, well, Bertie, the potential of Newcastle was highlighted by the comeback by Newcastle very quickly. They scored midway through that first half. Troy Halpin on the end of the action.
Yeah, again, you see how Newcastle play. They're quite lethal. They can come forward, and they caught Marconi on the hop, and quite a good finish by Troy Halpin.
From the side of the pitch there, Rob, at first I thought he'd miskicked it past Bobby Catlin, but the replay was brilliantly caught there. Outside the right foot, he's dinked it in the corner. I mean, you watch it here again closely. Great little 1-2 here. As he's going in from the far side of the pitch where we're sitting, it looks a miskick, but bang, outside of the foot, superb camera work to catch that in the corner like that.
Yeah, if you were critical, you could say that Brendan Reno didn't track his man there, because it was a lovely, intricate move, Bertie, and indicative of what Newcastle can offer.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a little bit disappointed in the Marconi defence. They've allowed Newcastle a lot of space at times, and that was one instance where they've lost their markers and they've let them go, and in the end, I mean, Newcastle were able to capitalise, and what a great finish. I mean, it just goes to show he knew what he was going to do way before, and he caught probably Bobby Catlin on the hop. Wasn't a great, well-hit shot, but it was perfectly placed.
Well, Steve, I did mention Brendan Reno there. He trailed the ball back into the goal, but he made up for it with a brilliant move 1 minute after that goal for Newcastle.
I mean, he's done really well, Brendan Reno. I mean, he's in the game. Good cross here from Matt Bingley, right across here. Now, this is the incident there we talked about before. Was it a foul? Carter's gone for this one. I mean, I don't think it is a foul, but one week it's a foul, next week it's not. In this case, personally, no. But where can we get this sorted out somewhere? And Reno did well. He came in nice and deep, dinked it away again. Watch him there. In tough and hard, bang.
A very athletic finish there from Brendan Reno, diving over the top. Bertie, just briefly, Marconi do have the firepower, though, to go on with this match in the second half.
Oh, without a doubt, and as we've seen on the bench, that is some bench waiting to come on. So, obviously, Manfred will utilise those players sometime in this half to offset the fatigue factor. I mean, Newcastle, you will obviously see, I think, fade away in the second half. They've only had 2 days rest due to that the deferment of their game from Friday to Sunday, so they will really be feeling this game.
Yeah, okay, we'll look for that. Bertie Mariani, Steve Darby, thanks for your comments. And Michael Cockrell, we'll go back to you, and the match still, though, in the balance.
Yes, thank you very much, Robert Wheatley. We can see the two teams now out on the park, the game evenly poised in terms of the scoreline. I'd suggest, though, that Marconi have stamped some authority on this match, but Newcastle showing good fighting qualities, particularly in that last half an hour in the first half. And as we saw in that half-time wrap-up, that was a lovely goal from Troy Halpin, a player who may not be a great goal scorer, but as the cliche goes, he's a scorer of great goals. Newcastle, though, with the kick-off.
And Maloney on for Marconi, Mike.
So Manfred Schaefer making a change that we had talked about during that first half. Brad Maloney on in the centre of midfield. And not sure who the player who has gone off is as yet. Just having a look down the lineup here. In fact, Francis Awaratifi's off the pitch. So Awaratifi, who picked up an injury in that first half, has been replaced by Maloney, with Bingley, as he did in Brisbane, going into the forward line. No changes in the Newcastle side. Here's Peter Ritchie trying to work with Glenn Sprod. Very hard-working player, Glenn Sprod. Ball up the line by Souris. Harper trying to get in there. Ralphie Meyer positioned well. Roberts over the top. No one there, though, for Newcastle. Well, Johnny Warren, we saw Matthew Bingley play as a striker in Brisbane on Saturday night. Of course, for many years at St George, he was a striker, and he did score the equaliser, of course, in Brisbane. So a very capable replacement for Francis Aratici.
I think the most versatile player in Australia. Can play at the back, can play sweeper, midfield, up front. Invaluable man to have in your team, and I also believe a very good goalkeeper.
Well, we haven't seen him with the gloves as yet. I'm sure that may come sooner or later. Of course, coaches in many cases now don't put a reserve goalkeeper on the bench.
On the bench, and it's handy. It reminds me very much John Watkiss, going back to my era, was a similar player, and it's always a question, is he better up front or at the back or in midfield? But it's a nice solution for Marconi, who are a little bit light in depth up front. If there's an injury to Harper or Waratifi, they can struggle a bit, so that option of having Bingley to play there is quite an attractive one for them.
Here's Jason Bennett with the layoff for Thomas. Now with Sprod. Demaroni across there for Marconi. Sprod trying to thread the ball through to Bennett. Too many Marconi shirts in the way. Now with the substitute, Brad Maloney. And a lovely pass by Maloney over the top, finding Bingley in space. In the middle is Zorich. Harper coming in late, but good defending there by Adam Sanderson. He didn't dive in and make the tackle. He just jockeyed Bingley away from the danger zone. Still though, Marconi with possession. Now given away though. And here's Thomas. Square to Halpin. Forward is Sanderson.
Newcastle looks so much better having a go, don't they, Mike? That we had periods of it in the first half. And it's a nice time of the season for them, as we said in the opener, that it's not a lot was expected of them this year. They've had some great results the last 2 weeks. Just go out, relax, and have a go at Marconi.
Well, here's Zorich now trying to find a way through that Newcastle defence. In the end, the cross was a disappointing one from Vlado Zorich. Showed good speed to get onto that ball ahead of Adam Sanderson. Well, in fact, Newcastle have made a change at the break. Craig Carter, the goalkeeper, replaced by Adam Fiddick, who plays only his second game in the first grade side. I didn't recognise Adam Fiddick because the last time I saw him he had hair halfway down his back. Here Newcastle, though, great effort again from Troy Halpin, demonstrating what skill he has. He ghosted away from his marker there. It was a good ball, switched by Shane Price, and Halpin with the volley directed towards the goal. Watching the ball all the way. That'll be a great example for any coaching manual, the way he just watched the flight of that ball, Troy Halpin, and steadied himself with a volley. So in fact, Newcastle changing their goalkeeper. And I know from speaking to John Cosmina, he hasn't been entirely happy with the form of Craig Carter recently. And I wonder whether he has been replaced on that basis, Johnny Warren. Perhaps you could fault him for a couple of those crosses there.
Yeah, and it could be. I think we all need a shake-up from time to time, and I think to be changed does just change that mentality a little bit. And it certainly won't hurt Carter to perhaps have a spell out. Newcastle appear to be playing with their Sprod and Halpin a little bit more forward too, Mike, which is going to take the game to Marconi a little bit more than perhaps they did in general play in that first half.
Here's Demaroni now, the game opening up well, offside against Bingley. And just another quick comment on that goalkeeping change. The only other appearance that Adam Fiddick has made was as a substitute in Brisbane earlier in the season when Newcastle were beaten 5-0, and he was only on the pitch for 2 or 3 minutes, and he let in a very, very soft goal from Mark Batterston. He's recovered his confidence enough to force his way back into the frame, so that's a credit to Adam Fiddick. Gunellaba boy, he hails from the same town as Terry Greedy. So if he turns out to be half as good as Terry, he's going to be a very good goalkeeper. Souris has timed his run well. He's stayed on side. Controls the ball with his chest. Castley now. Square is Bingley. Stanton. And Stanton trying to nutmeg Scott Thomas, the Newcastle player guilty of obstruction. Stanton was attempting, I think, to play the ball, in fact, around Thomas. And brought to the ground, so free kick for Marconi. At the back post is Bingley. Longo hasn't gone forward with this free kick. Maloney looking for the head of Matthew Bingley. Away, though, by Hickman. Once again, Scott Thomas giving away a free kick. Taken quickly now with Souris. Has a look at the goal, thinks again, plays it short to Harper. Now with Maloney. The ball chipped in with the outside of his right boot. Away there by Sanderson. Vlado Zoric now. So Marconi controlling the ball well here. But in the end, the pass from Jean-Paul Dumarigny was mishit. So Adam Fiddick, just 19 years of age, in goal for the second half. As Newcastle try to peg back this Marconi lead, leading the game, of course. Marconi 2-1. This game, one of two being played tonight. The rest of the round is going to be completed tomorrow night. Interesting game at Leichhardt Oval between UTS Olympic and the champions, the Melbourne Knights. The victory here would certainly put Marconi, or what should I say, would keep them on top, at least for 24 hours. But as Johnny Warren has mentioned on a number of occasions, goal difference may come into play. And here's a shot by Bennett, the ball bouncing around. In there was Peter Ritchie onto the half volley, and he holds his head, Peter Ritchie. He knows what a good chance that was. The ball bounced favourably for the youngster. Ball first hoisted in by Thomas. Battling away at the back post was helping. Jason Bennett's shot fell invitingly for Peter Ritchie, and he really should have put the ball on target there, Peter Ritchie. And he knows it.
I think that's the type of ball every attacker would like to hit. Perfect bounce for him. The half volley, you get onto them, there's no one's going to stop them.
Stanton's ball towards Harper. Look at the pace of Andrew Harper. But Ralphie Meyer was positioned perfectly.
Yeah, just on that goal difference, Mike, it is going to come into play, certainly as far as positions are concerned. You have Marconi at the moment, or prior to this game, plus 17. Brisbane plus 15. Sydney Olympic plus 14. And Adelaide City plus 13. Can be very decisive if points are equal. And you sense perhaps Marconi may have missed.
Well, here's a mistake, almost, in fact, by Jean-Paul Dumarigny. Sorry, John.
Yeah, you just sense Marconi may have missed a chance in that first half to improve their goal difference. They had many opportunities. And Newcastle much more competitive in this second half. So probably an opportunity lost for Marconi.
Certainly, the longer the game goes on, the more confidence there is in Newcastle's play. They're giving as good as they get in the early stage of the second half. And Shane Price, who looks increasingly comfortable at this level, Shane Price. Stanton now forward for Marconi. No support down the left flank, has to come the other way. And in there was Hickman from Newcastle. Good work here by Stephen Hickman. Continues his run. Showed too much of the ball, though, to Stanton. Marconi now can break through the middle. Price was in there, though, quickly for the breakers. Looking for Bennett. And Souris across in cover. Here's Maloney. Casserly, watched by Andy Roberts. Demarani. Very few options there for Jean-Paul Demarani. And Dominic Longo now under pressure. Here's Maloney though. To his left is Zorich, and the ball is a good one from Maloney once again. Will Zorich get there? No, he doesn't. So a good idea there from Maloney. And the ball just a yard too fast. And we'll go down to the sideline and Robert Wheatley.
Yes, thanks, Mike. An update from the Hindmarsh Stadium in Adelaide, where West Adelaide have just scored before half-time. A Robbie Hooker penalty allows them to lead 1-0 against Brisbane Strikers.
Well, here's Andrew Harper now in on that Newcastle goal, trying to square the ball towards Maloney, still with Harper. Luke Casserly now with a shot, and over the crossbar by Luke Casserly. Another chance gone begging as far as Marconi are concerned. Andrew Harper beat the offside trap. The ball squared across towards the edge of the 6-yard box. Roberts was in there for Newcastle. The layoff eventually for Luke Casserly. And he scooped his shot over the bar as Manfred Schaefer, the Marconi coach, gets ready to make his second change of the match. Eric Christodoulou is the player to come on. And in fact, it will be Luke Casserly, the player to go off. So, midfield player for a midfield player. No change to the formation as far as Marconi are concerned. Just a pair of fresh legs. Eric Christodoulou is actually in the starting lineup in Brisbane, on the bench tonight. But an early mark there for Casserly. So it may be that Stanton, in fact, will come onto the right side of that midfield. Christodoulou in the middle. Here is Stanton with the header. Out of play there. So we'll now cross down to the sideline and Steve Darby.
Thanks, Mike. I've just spoken to Craig Carter in the Newcastle dressing room. It wasn't tactical. The lad was injured. He got injured in the collision with the Waratifi, which caused the goal. He said the Waratifi fell on top of him and he's damaged his shin bone.
Well, that's bad news for Craig Carter. As all goalkeepers know, you go in for a ball with Francis and there's always a chance you're going to get injured. He's a very physical player. There's a cross by Ritchie, away there by Longo. Maloney now, and a good ball by Maloney once again. Adam Fiddick out quickly though for Newcastle. Good awareness there by the goalkeeper. Roberts into the back of Stanton, free kick. Harper now beating Hickman, gets the shot. Andrew Harper still not able to find his range, Andy Harper. Just turned away there from Hickman with ease, and in the end the shot wasn't on target. Just a yard too quick there probably for Stephen Hickman.
I think he's a yard too quick for anyone, isn't he? That acceleration that Harper has. A very basic weapon, but a very effective one. The other thing you like about him too, Mike, is he's so mobile. It's not just runs up and down. He's diagonal runs. He's always available, and he's a real outlet up front. Marconi out of midfield, finding him on quite a few occasions now.
Here's Thomas in midfield. That far side is Halpin. Short towards Bennett. Bennett gets away from Longo, tries to turn Demarani. Good recovery there from the Marconi skipper. Now with Christodoulou. Bingley. Renault now. Good run here by Renault. Down the left side is Christodoulou. Square is Matthew Bingley here into the box. And the foot in there from Hickman, still with Renault. And what a lovely tackle that was in the end by Adam Sanderson. Was it on Brendan Renault? to deny Marconi the cross. So a corner to the home team as the crowd starts to get behind Marconi. Fairfield is leading 2-1. Corner in towards the near post, away by Thomas. Now time for Troy Halpin into the feet of Bennett. Maroni gets it short to Longo. Comes Dominic Longo. Onside is Harper. Well, that was a very close call because Johnny Warren, we're almost level with that, and to me that looked like he was onside.
I didn't feel that was offside. Certainly level.
So bad luck there for Andrew Harper as we once again go down to the sideline, and this time Bertie Mariani.
Thank you, Michael, and I've got Francis Waratifi with me. Francis, hard going in that first half.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty physical, and both teams are really going for it. So yeah, it was a good game. Good game. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
And you'd be interested in how the goalkeeper rates the clash with you. You actually injured him in that clash.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, you know. I mean, the ball was there to be won. I went up for it, and I won it. And luckily, Brendan was following up, and he put the ball away, so it was good for us.
Okay, thanks very much. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Bertie Mariani and Francis Aratifi there. Arrests in the second half.
I felt it was a fair challenge going back to that incident. There's certainly no malice or intent from Francis's perspective. Fair challenge.
Here's Newcastle now with the corner. Played deep to Sanderson to change the point of the cross, and the offside flag goes up with two Newcastle players free on the far post. Both Sprod and Hickman offside though, according to the linesman. Newcastle about to make another change. Craig Sharpley, the midfield player, getting ready to come onto the field. He's been out of the side now for a good month or so, Craig Sharpley. And he will replace Adam Sanderson. So perhaps a rearrangement of tactics by John Cosmina. Newcastle playing with a five-man defence in that first half. They may decide to push an extra player into midfield, aware that they are behind on the scoreboard, of course. So Sharpley into the middle of the park. Seems there'll be a straight 4-4-2 now by Newcastle. Here comes Andy Roberts. Sharply involved early. Ball chipped up by Price. In there is Sprod, as well as Souris. And a mistake by Souris. Here's Jason Bennett with a shot. And Bob Catlin did well to get his body behind that ball that was bouncing awkwardly in front of him. So a mistake here by Souris, playing the ball square across the face of his own goal. In there quickly was Jason Bennett. May have taken a little deflection off the boot of Demarani.
Lucky it didn't get a bit more deflection, because it would have gone in that far corner. The game's still very much alive, Mike, and full marks to Newcastle because they're the ones who have done a lot of the running, or made the running in this second period. Early on in that first half, you felt it was going to be one-way traffic. But to their credit, they've really made a game of it.
And we should probably point out the fact that Bobby Catlin has made 2 or 3 important saves for Marconi. So, but for Bobby Catlin being in good form tonight, Newcastle may well be on level terms. Bobby Catlin tonight playing his 198th game, so this coming weekend he'll make his 200th appearance in the National League. He did have a spell at Apia Leichhardt to start with, but he has been at Marconi now on and off for the best part of 6 or 7 years. Of course, Catlin also spell overseas in England with Notts County, as we see Peter Ritchie fouling Dominic Longo there. Free kick to be taken by Catlin. Header away there by Hickman. Foul on Halpin. Taken quickly now with Hickman. A long ball through the middle. In there is Bennett. Trying to flick the ball on for Sprod. Sprod turns. And what a great effort that was by Glenn Sprod to get that shot somewhere near the goal. He really had to stretch for the ball, Glenn Sprod. Not only that, he had to turn quickly as well. There was contact made by Bennett. And look at the effort here by Glenn Sprod. That really is a good effort under the circumstances.
It's a fabulous effort, and the more this game goes on, Mike, you sense that if anything's going to happen, it's going to go, Newcastle are going to pull one back. The shot of Manfred Schaefer there on the bench, having known Manfred for a long time, it wasn't a very happy look. And no doubt he's concerned with every reason at this moment.
Here's a cross from Richie. It's a good one away by Longo. Sharply now with the ball for Newcastle. The header away by Renault. In there, though, is Thomas. Time again now for Peter Ritchie. Back onto his left foot. Eventually too many Marconi players there, though. And Christodoulou, in trying to come away with the ball, has given away the free kick. And quite a vehement protest there by Eric Christodoulou. So some signs perhaps of frustration creeping into Marconi's play. Newcastle in this second half have certainly lifted their effort. Here's Hickman. Still Stephen Hickman. And the cross coming off Zoric, so a corner for the Breakers as the pressure continues. Marconi being forced to defend grimly to hold on to their lead. Bobby Catlin organising his defence. Towards the near post, and Bobby Catlin in there to give away another corner kick. John Kosmina on your right, Joe Senkelska on the left. Newcastle Brains Trust doing their job at half-time. Here's Hickman at the back post with a good header. It didn't go the right way, though. Still in there, though, for Newcastle. And Hickman coming back from an offside position. Well, you can just hear the level of talking out there, and it's coming all from the Newcastle players.
Well, the wave is with them at the moment, isn't it? They're putting the pressure on Marconi. A little bit of frustration coming into the Marconi play, giving the possession away like that, as we just saw.
Here comes Thomas, trying to work his way past Longo. He does so, but away there by DeMarini. Now Bingley with some time in midfield, but he gives the ball away now to Sharpley. So Marconi just really can't retain possession. Bennett looking for Sharpley, the substitute. And Craig Sharpley took too long to have his shot there because he was clean through the middle. Eventually the cover came across from DeMarini, was it? Manfred Schaefer will not be happy with the way Newcastle are finding gaps in the middle of that Marconi defence. And Craig Sharpley possibly should have made them pay for it there. He hesitated a split second too long, but the momentum is certainly with Newcastle. The cross now from Thomas. In there was Bennett, and it'll be a goal kick, much to the relief of the Marconi players. They really are under the whip here all of a sudden. Good interchange here between Bennett and Sharpley, and Sharpley should have possibly taken a shot then, and he hesitated too long, and in the end it was a good sliding tackle by DeMarini. Well, Stephen Hickman just shepherded Matthew Bingley out of the way. That was a challenge that had the full approval of his coach, John Kosmina. The crowd, though, not happy with it. Christodoulou pressured in midfield, forced to go back to DeMarini. Here's Zoric. This time Bingley's in behind the defence. Lovely skill by Zoric. Still Bingley going forward, away there by Price. Renault now at the back post is Stanton, and Adam Fiddick calms things down for Newcastle.
We made the point earlier, Mike, how much better Newcastle look having a go at Marconi. They sat back early in the game and were lucky to survive. Bit of luck and a bit of good play. There was a period Marconi should have wrapped the match up. But particularly in this second half, they've come out a more positive approach to the game, pressurising Marconi in their own half. And it suits their style a lot better than sitting back.
Certainly plenty of attacking potential on this Newcastle side. The likes of Halpin and Bennett. Sprott also involved in a lot of the positive moments for Newcastle. And there's a shot by Price. Did that take a deflection off a Marconi player? It did, says the referee. So yet another corner for the Breakers. And because of this incident, Peter Ritchie taking the shot early. Came off a Marconi player. So another corner for Newcastle. Hickman again at the back post. In towards the near post and Bennett. And the ball had in fact drifted over that byline, so it's going to be a goal kick for Marconi. So Shane Price makes his way back into position. Perhaps a level of complacency creeping into Marconi's play tonight. Maybe they just want to get through this game with the minimum of fuss. Of course, those are the sort of games you end up dropping points. Particularly to an enthusiastic outfit like Newcastle. Here comes Thomas once again, evading Vlado Zoric. A foul by the Marconi player. Free kick taken early by Newcastle. Bennett at the back post. He has support from Roberts. That's where the ball goes. Roberts now looks up, across towards the run at the back post there of Halpin. Away though by Renault. And Andy Harper, who's had to come back into midfield to get the ball, can burst forward. It's 4 against 4 for Marconi. Offside was Bingley. And the referee allows play to go on. Would have been an interesting interpretation of whether he's interfering with play there, Johnny White.
Well, exactly.
Well, in fact, Harper is onside this time. No flag and no danger of an offside decision. He's evaded the challenge of Hickman. And Harper really had very few options in front of goal there. He couldn't cut the ball back, and there was nobody in the middle for Marconi. Suddenly, though, Marconi looking to create openings, and Hrisadulu wastes the pass.
Eric, back at yourself. Hey, come on, let's think a little bit.
But just on that earlier incident, would that have been interfering?
Yeah, well, of course, it's interpretation by the referee. I didn't think he was, but it was a good decision in that he did allow the advantage. But Manfred Schaefer there yelling out, "Come on, let's think a little bit." Probably sums it up at this stage, because Marconi really up against it.
Andy Roberts allows the ball to go out of play for a throw. Sharpley wants the ball and bundled off it by Maloney. Free kick switch to Hickman. Looking for help and away there by Zoric though. Still in there though, Hickman. Zoric again turning well. Feeding Hrisadulu, trying to thread the ball through towards Harper. Over the top by Renault. Onside was Bingley, but the ball always favoured Adam Fiddick, the Newcastle goalkeeper. And the scoreline after 75 minutes is the same as it was at half-time. Marconi 2, Newcastle 1. But it's Newcastle who came into this match in second last position, who are threatening the league leaders. They really are throwing down a challenge. Marconi on the back foot for much of this second half. Here's Shane Price now releasing himself into midfield. Thomas. Square is Hickman. Good ball by Hickman, finding Shane Price. Nice turn as well. In there is Bennett. But Dominic Longo had to scurry back to deny Jason Bennett the pass. Good build-up, though, by Newcastle. All the passes along the ground. And with a player as quick as Jason Bennett up front, you're always a chance to get a good bounce in that danger zone. Here's a header, though, by Price over the crossbar. Jumping well, Shane Price. Couldn't get the header downwards, though. Confidence is really growing in this Newcastle side. You can see it out there. They're much quicker and firmer in the challenge than Marconi are at the moment. Andrew Harper, though, always likely to make them pay. And here he's fed Matthew Bingley. It's one-on-one. Bingley against Fiddick. He draws the keeper. Good finish there by Matthew Bingley. And that should be the ball game. So despite all their pressure, Newcastle come up empty-handed as on the break, Matthew Bingley scores Marconi's third goal. The pass from Harper beat the offside trap. And good presence of mind there from Matthew Bingley. He stood up the goalkeeper, and a clinical finish puts Marconi 3 in front of Newcastle 1. And so often we see a team who's been under pressure just counter-attack. The ball, in fact, going through the goalkeeper's legs. But Andrew Harper, again the provider. And rough justice, perhaps, though, for Newcastle, Johnny Warren.
A little bit rough, just at the stage of the game where it was all their way. You just sensed that they were working so hard for a result. There was a belief that they could get something out of this match. And then the Harper-Bingley duo, much the same as they did in Brisbane. But Andy Harper having a fabulous season, not just in scoring goals, but in setting up. That was another example of being the provider as well as the finisher.
And a good ball here now. Zorich in behind that Newcastle defence. He wants to take on Ralphie Meyer. He does so. And in the end, there was a second man across there for Newcastle. It's going to be a goal kick. Vlado Zorich was looking for a penalty. He sent Meyer one way and then the other. In there as well was Hickman. Zorich appealing in vain for a penalty.
Bit of a push there.
Bit of a push from Ralphie Meyer.
Is it a handball? I think that's what Zorich may have been protesting about. That second replay we just couldn't get a look at. But perhaps a push and perhaps a hand, but that would be rough justice because they've done so well in this second half, Newcastle. Knocked off the leaders on Sunday, hoping to do the same tonight. And for much this second half looked as though that was possible.
Well, there's still time, of course, just over 10 minutes left in this game. Here come Newcastle again, the cross looking for Sprott, away though by Souris. Well, you feel the game is now beyond Newcastle's reach, but if they maintain their level, they may get some reward in these dying stages. Certainly Marconi can't afford to be too sloppy at the back. They will be punished. Marconi tries to find the feet of Harper. In there was Sharpley. Foul low on Glenn Sprott. Hickman once again being given plenty of latitude by Marconi. And the ball finds Thomas. Wide right is Peter Ritchie. But to be fair to Peter Ritchie, as the crowd give him a hard time, they did take a bad bounce just as he went to cross that ball, Peter Ritchie. Here's the goal scorer, Matthew Bingley. In there, though, was Hickman for Newcastle. Christodoulou now. And John-Paul Demaroni goes forward from defence for Marconi. Here comes Maloney. Stanton. Souris. Still forward is Demaroni. And Souris instead goes all the way back to his goalkeeper. Catlin now out of the area. The long ball over the top. No flag against the Marconi players. The header away there by Price. Zorich now feeds Harper. The ball favours Meyer, and Harper just shrugs off Ralphie Meyer. Well, he's got a free kick, Ralphie Meyer. A smile from John Cosmina, but I feel that Andrew Harper had a right to complain about that. As we look at the replay again, there was this push, in fact, so the referee was spot on.
The referees are right again.
And the commentators are wrong.
Yeah. Who'd be a referee? I mean, such a hard job. But all those incidents you see when you think it's one way, I must say that 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, the referee is right. That push bringing a smile to Cossie's face. A role that he's played for many, many years, and he's given a few pushes in his time. That's a matchup I would love to have seen. It never happened. The two coaches tonight, John Cosmina against Manfred Schaefer, one an attacker in Cosmina, the other a defender in Schaefer.
Would have been pistols at dawn, wouldn't it, Johnny?
That would have been worth seeing. Just two guys who were just great competitors and very good players, of course, and among the all-time great players for Australia.
Here's Glenn Sprod now, back to Shane Price. Making room on the left is Roberts. Has to go back to Price once again. Switch is on for Peter Ritchie, but the ball headed away instead by Zorich. Now it's Jason Bennett trying to make space in that Marconi defence. Longo, though, defending grimly. Turning away now, Dominic Longo. Good ball up towards Andrew Harper. Lovely dummy here from Harper. And he got the foul there, Andy Harper. He's so quick in his thinking, Andrew Harper. He's also quick, of course, over those first couple of yards. But he has to be one of the smartest players in Australia.
He is. I mean, we talk of players playing for the Socceroos recently. One wonders what Andy Harper, with so many of the players overseas, he certainly has, for my money, earned a chance to play for Australia. One of the most impressive players in the Ericsson Cup this year.
And, of course, one of the most consistent over a number of years.
Yes, and a real match breaker. I mean, either setting them up or scoring. He's always involved. Very seldom does he have a quiet game.
Halpin trying the back heel. Intercepted by Christodoulou. Here's Harper now. Taking on Peter Ritchie. Two in the middle, Maloney and Bingley. It goes back to Renault now. Renault wants to take on this Newcastle defence. And he does so, but across there in cover was Peter Ritchie, who seems to have hurt himself in that challenge. Gets very gingerly to his feet. In fact, it was Shane Price across there for Newcastle. Still holding his right leg. It's a corner, though, to Marconi. A smile now on the face of Manfred Schaefer. He knows the game is all but wrapped up. Just 5 minutes remaining in this game. The corner by Marconi towards the goal line, in fact, just allowed to go over the crossbar by Adam Fiddick. So a good result here tonight for Marconi, although they haven't been entirely convincing. They'll be satisfied with the scoreline. John Cosmina can too feel satisfied, I feel, with the effort of his team, particularly in the second half. There have been many pluses out of this match for Newcastle tonight. Here's Scott Thomas evading the challenge of Longo, still going. Scott Thomas away there eventually by Souris.
I think one of those lessons, Mike, is that they can have a go at someone like Marconi on their home ground and be a little bit unlucky not to get something out of the match.
Peter Ritchie getting the ball into the edge of the area, away by DeMurray. Now with Ralphie Meyer playing his 250th game tonight. The Newcastle boy, born and bred, Ralphie Meyer. Bingley now dispossessing sharply, and the flag does go up against Robert Stanton, and rightly so. He was a metre or so the wrong side of the defender there, Robbie Stanton. He wanted that ball played a split second earlier. Didn't get it. It's an offside instead to Newcastle to be taken by Ralphie Meyer, short to Price, who I feel has been one of Newcastle's better players tonight, Shane Price. Here he is again, lending help to the attack, and across towards Bennett, away by Longo. Meyer in towards Bennett. A good layoff finds Thomas. Ball chipped towards Jason Bennett, and it's Bennett against Catlin. And Bobby Catlin out quickly, covering the ball with that fairly substantial frame of his.
The other good news for Marconi tonight, Mike, if that result holds in Adelaide, with West Adelaide leading Brisbane, it'll give them a 6-point jump on Brisbane, one of their pursuers. And Marconi away on Sunday to Melbourne Knights, defending champions in Melbourne.
Well, a lovely head on there by Maloney, and it's Bingley looking for his second goal of the game. Good save, though, by Fiddick to deny Matthew Bingley on this occasion. Once again, Bingley beating the offside trap. Once again, one-on-one against the keeper. This time, the keeper coming out on top. Good save there by Fiddick. Here comes Stanton, a handball though against Stanton.
I think you're talking about lessons for Newcastle. I think the other lesson out of tonight, Mike, is that if you're going to play the offside trap, play it properly. The wrong choice there by Matthew. He had three choices. Opted for the shot when the push to the first post was probably the safer option. But they've played the offside trap and they've been caught so many times. And I think if you're going to play that game and get caught, well, let's abandon it.
Here's Peter Ritchie with a good cross. In there was Sprod for Newcastle. DeMaroni cleaning up. Under pressure, though. It's now with Stanton. Shane Price, one of the better Newcastle players tonight. More so, in fact, for his work in attack, perhaps. He has released himself into midfield on a number of occasions. And
done something with it when he's come forward. It just hasn't been in a supportive role. He's been quite creative with his use of the ball.
And a good ball by Harper. Maloney now forward for Marconi. Tries to take on Meyer. The defender gets the better of him, but here's Harper working back in midfield for Marconi. Misunderstanding with Zorich. Sadly for Andy Harper, who once again has been a prime mover for Marconi tonight. He is such a consistent player, Andy Harper. He rarely puts in a bad game. And Andy Harper continues to impress. One wonders when he'll ever get a chance for Australia. Time running out. He's 28 years of age now, Andy Harper. Newcastle though break quickly. The rebound favouring Thomas. Onto his left foot. And the shot in the end was a weak one from Scott Thomas. Robbie Stanton goes down under that challenge from Andy Roberts. The referee waves play on. DeMaroni forward for Marconi. Now with Ristadulu. Bingley in space to his left. Through the middle was Maloney. And Hrissadulu really took the wrong option there. There was plenty of space for Bingley on that left side. So a chance gone begging. The flag this time goes up from the linesman. Offside against Troy Halpin. So we're now into stoppage time at the end of the match. And Marconi have the points in the bag, the result which will keep them at the top of the Ericsson Cup table for 24 hours at least. UTS Olympic hosting Melbourne Knights tomorrow night at the Leichhardt Oval. For now, Marconi have done the job required of them. Peter Ritchie has also worked hard for Newcastle tonight. And Harper in there on Ritchie. No foul, says the referee. Here comes Andrew Harper down the left flank, keeping the ball in play. No, he didn't. The ball just drifting over the line. Unlucky for Andrew Harper.
Just think from Marconi's perspective, Mike, 4 games in 10 days, it is important to have consistent performance, and they've had that tonight.
Yes, they certainly have, Johnny Warren. A final scoreline which may flatter Marconi to some extent, but it's a job nonetheless well done against a spirited Newcastle side who really took the game to Marconi in the second half. But in the end, Newcastle's brave resistance was put to an end by a goal against the run of play from Matthew Bingley, beating the offside trap after a nice through pass from Andrew Harper. Marconi, in the end, getting the result they required. They remain on top of the Ericsson Cup after a game in which their championship credentials were put to the test by a brave Newcastle Breakers side. Final score here at Bossley Park then of Marconi-Fairfield 3, Newcastle Breakers 1. And we'll now cross down to the sideline and Robert Wheatley.
Yes, thanks Mark Cockrell, and a result which will keep Marconi at the top of the Ericsson Cup table with a full round of round 24 matches to be completed tomorrow night. And a quick comment from Bertie Mariani and Steve Darby. Bertie, Marconi did go on with it, but they did soak up a lot of pressure in the beginning of that first half.
Yeah, a brave effort from Newcastle to come back, but their legs obviously told them. The speed and experience of Marconi and that Mr. Utility, Matthew Bingley, popping up at the right place again. Deserved winners.
Right, a fair summation there from Bertie Mariani. We're moving on to a couple of details of matches coming up on Sports Australia. Our match on Saturday night takes us to Sydney United versus Brisbane Strikers at Adenza Park in Sydney. Don't miss that one, live at 7 p.m. and that should be a good game to watch. We'll have kick-off on Thursday night with a wrap of all round 23 action. Until then, it's Robert Wheatley saying good night.